Hey everybody, it's Professor Lucien, and I apologize for creating this video so far into the week. It's Wednesday today, and I'll get it posted tonight. But I've been really busy with work at that site in Madison that I've been helping out. This is my second week in a row, and I'll be wrapping things up. But I'm going to share some of that tonight, in this video. Sorry. So I'll do a week 2 preview, some of the performance things I've been looking at, review of the week 2, preview for week 3, and then remind you that your accident investigation assignment is due this week, so it's going to take a little bit more time, and I'm going to review it again, even though I reviewed it last week. And then next week, I'll be assigning the course case study, and I'll be covering some topics and things like that. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm kind of a data analytics freak. So I do a lot of collection, analysis, trending, all kinds of stuff. And so this is what I have on you all. I mean, there's only 12 students in the class, so how much can you really find? Well, I found that there are certain behavioral metrics, if you will, that I can get from Canvas that tends to not only correlate but predict course performance. And so right here on the left here, I've got this figure. This is your touches and times as of Monday morning. That's when I pull my numbers, Monday morning. And as you can see, there's a pretty significant correlation, or R-square, between these two basic statistics. And this is what I get off of Canvas again Monday morning, that the more time you spend, the more things you... there's a correlation between the amount of time you spend and the number of things you look at. And I like that. Then what I did is I ran these two basic possible predictors against the grade. So I've got the average and the median here because I don't assume normality, so I want to provide both. So as you are sitting here, if you kind of think about, what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, and if the time you have put in is under, 3 or under 2.5 hours, your peers are putting in more time. If you're touching less than 160, 150, again, you're not putting in the same amount of time and touches or work as your peers in this class. Here's the average and median grade, and I think you can look and see that. So what I did down here is I compared the overall time taken on the 24th to the current after I graded on Monday, week 2 grade, and also then the touches to week 2 grade. And I found they're both highly significant to a 0.05. That's the 0.05 error that it would be random. So those of you who are putting in the time, those of you who are doing the touches are achieving A's. Basically, if you're not, it's a sliding scale. Up till now, I've tried to grade in more of an encouraging perspective that, like in week 1, I'm like, well, give you a 9 out of 10, but, this is what the assignment really wants. I'm going to begin instilling that because those of you who are putting the work, I want you to be fully recognized. Those of you who are not putting in or producing the work as expected, I want your reflections to be detailed, personal, and long. I want your weekly assignments to reference materials from the lecture and be detailed. And I want your discussions to be enlightening and collaborative. So that's what I'll be looking for as we move forward. A lot of you will be doing it. So let's go a little bit further into my demented psyche of statistics. So this is my 2023 year-end KPIs for this job I've been doing. So I have both leading and lagging metrics or KPIs. I've been tracking safety observations, things I've completed, things that are ongoing, training, and JHAs. Those. If you do those things, you should be preventing things from happening. But then the laggings are the OSHA recordable stuff, the incidence rates, and then I also put in ratios. I feel pretty good. I mean, Oakley had talked about it, if you remember Heinrich and Bird. And so these aren't perfect ratios, but there's something to show management that if I get employee engagement, if they're sharing with me near misses, concerns, they're observing things and asking questions, that if I'm able to resolve those issues, we should see less recordable injuries. So that's what I was doing. So the 2022 prior year finals are here. Here are my numbers. So I set out to try to increase things, and I think I almost quadrupled. I think it's 2.5 times as much. As far as items resolved, I am close to 3 times as much. I still have quite a few ongoing items, which is a 2024 goal. Training, I did a little bit more, but I could do a lot better. With the audits, I didn't do as many audits because I was spending so much time engaging with workers. So I wasn't taking an OSHA compliance perspective. I was taking more of a human organizational performance perspective. And so let's see how that worked out for me. So in 2022, there were 15 recordable cases. I had 8. Only 1 the last month. The number of days away, so lost time cases, OSHA recordables, they had 10, I had 4. So I was able to cut that down quite a bit. My ratios of observations to cases is excellent, 100 to 1. They were 16 to 1 the year prior. My near miss first aid report only to recordable is 13 to 1. They were 6 to 1. So the heightened engagement resulted in some pretty significant reductions. They were a total case incidence rate of 11.2. I was a 6. I shouldn't say but the year that I was there. And then a 7.5 DART to a 3. Not seen on here is workers' compensation dollars spent. The 2 years prior, it averaged somewhere up and around like 130 a year, which is not a lot. It is a lot, but it's not like traditionally a lot. The total at the end of my year was 28,000. So all things, by being more engaged with the workers, hearing them, trying to respond to their concerns, it resulted in more corrections, less recordable injuries, less money spent in work comp, and actually less claims too. Here is, is this just January? So I generated monthly summaries that I presented out, and over here I have a description and the corrective action, and then the classifications. So at the end of the year, this is just 1 month. So I had 19 total things reported to me. You can see one was unfortunately a days away. This was just a kind of a mishap. It resulted in a days away injury. I believe it was just like an ankle thing. 4 first aids, 4 near miss, 8 report only 2 damage. So I'm getting a lot more information that is not recordable, which allows me to go out and correct things. Here's the comparison of the OSHA log, if you will. And I also do a no lost time ratio. I was targeting a 1-to-1 last year, and I got it. I've got the first aid reports and the near miss reports, and I was trying to increase those as well. Still trying to increase those, but the numbers spell out here. We had one person who was on restricted almost all of the year. It happened in 2022, but I extended it into mine. And then here are the rates. You can see how, COVID and before they were lower, but also I found errors in those records. These 2 years were pretty accurate, and we're doing pretty well. So, what is this here? This is February, so this is a month-to-month thing. You can see here we're trying to update stuff. So far, red is not achieving. Green is achieving. Yellow, I wasn't able to respond to it yet. But they've got a new person. He's taking it over. He's adding his own flavor to it. Here's my 14 items for February. And again, I look at it from a causal factor, and I try to focus on things. And then here's the metrics for that month. Here's my year end from January to January. It was like in March that I really started trying to get more things done. You can see how it skyrockets. This is the deficit that the new guy needs to take into account. But you could see I got a lot more reporting than previously. And so that's what kind of led things. So here are some of the updates that the new guy's been working on. He started in February. He's on paternity leave last week and this week. That's why I'm filling in. Here's some of the things I'm trying to finish up. I'm almost there. 2 more days to get it done. I was able to actually get some really cool projects for my students here. And we're just instituting these at the moment. Here's the 2024 proposed safety projects. I think based on what I learned last year and what I wasn't able to get to, I built these in, and then I built them into the strategic goal. And then we review those on a monthly basis in-house and quarterly across corporate. Okay? So that's, again, being an EHS manager, you have to answer to other departments on how well things are going. You have to justify when you ask for investments, when you need their support for something. I've been working with first shift supervisor, second shift supervisor, third shift supervisor in the last just few days, and the engineers to try to help me with some of the things that are going on right now, which is cooling the plant because it's been really hot. We don't have conditioned air or any sort of general building ventilation system. So I've been using floor fans and creativity to keep people cool. And do you guys want to see real quick what I've been doing? So this, I don't have it up. How did I not have it up? I was just looking at it a moment ago. I am sorry. It was right up here a second ago. I was just into this thing. Shoot. Well, I was going to show you the dashboard that I've been using. Oh, there it is. I was looking in the wrong thing. So they came up with this extreme heat policy based on some of the work I'd done last year and some of my recommendations. So now we have this dashboard that we can share with everybody to monitor what the plant conditions are, and then we've got the response to it. And I try to put it both in English and Spanish so people can see it. And then I can make this, I believe, 24 hours, 48 hours. Let's go last 2 days so you can see how hot it was yesterday. So we actually had some 100s. The one thing that's kind of cool is you see this right here. So this was accelerating right here, and I was really worried that we'd have to shut things down. A considerable amount of money is lost when production stops because even startup then is not assured. So I went and actually manually moved fans around at this point of the day and was able to reverse the trend and bring it down to here. Then I put it as an exit port on the other side of that area after I had dropped its temperature, and you see how it kept going up, and then it came down. That was when it got a little bit cloudy and a little windy. Then they cleared up in kind of dead air, and it shot up, and then it just started coming back down. We caught up again. It came up again. So if I hadn't broken that trend, we may have by noon had to send home a good portion of the employees, because that's what we do when it hits 105. But you see here, so I can download this data, and I've been trending it and modeling it. And so when my boss is trying to figure out what's going to happen that day, I can inform her and all the operating team that based on forecasted weather conditions today, I suspect that maybe around this time we may be, passing this particular threshold, and this is what we need to be concerned with. So we actually had a contingency plan in place should the temperature hit 105, but we were able to skirt it and keep it at 101. It topped out at. A lot of them got up in the 90s. Now this is real feel. So this is heat load. This is not actual room temperature. So it takes into account humidity, which is what OSHA wants you to do. They want you to use wet bulb globe temperature, but that is a better thing used for outdoor heat stress. But I actually ran a bunch of scenarios and tested it, and our heat load criterion here matches up very closely to the wet bulb globe temperature and how you're supposed to respond. So we're working right now to get this published throughout the plant, so it's everybody's readily updated. I've put in an order for some additional supplies. One is we give cooling towels so they can put them on the back of their neck or on their head, but also spray bottles with ice cold water that is kept in the refrigerators that we put at all the workstations that have bottled water, that have electrolyte popsicles, that have the powdered electrolytes they can put into their water. And we've got training and everything like that. So we do a lot to try and mitigate heat stress. And if they don't feel well, we let them go sit in an air-conditioned break room. That's the only area that's air-conditioned in the plant. And today I approved one of those, and they put down, safety break or whatever. So that's what we're doing. I think it's pretty cool. And downloading the data and trending it is actually really neat too. Yeah. You know what else? I know this is going long, and I'm sorry, but I'm working with a graduate student. And as you can see here, we downloaded all the data from the OSHA website as it pertains to what companies have to upload for their 300A. And then I went in and captured and mined the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What we found is there was some odd trends going on. And so we cleansed the data for each year, 2016 to 2023, removed all the zeros that were there that shouldn't have been there. We removed all the smaller entities, and then we removed the entities that were just, they had one that indicated every employee put in 2.4 trillion hours last year, every one of their employees. They didn't enter the numbers right. So we cleansed it. Ended up removing, I think, do I have that on here? What is my average removal? Percent removal. In 2016, it was 13.5. In 2022, it was 14.3. Preliminary 2023 is 15.6. And then I also calculated total incidence rates and incidence rates by individual entry, and I got different numbers because the data set, I should say, the statistic of incidence rate does not fit the basic assumption of normality. It's more asymptotic. Therefore, you shouldn't really report and use averages because the average is not equal to the median. And that's one of the things we're researching, that, and then we're comparing to the BLS to see how similar they are, because they should be. So right here, I'm starting to show some of the results as comparisons, as trends. I ran some corollary, like you saw before. I ran some covariance. But what's most interesting here is the trend analysis. So purple, this is our TRIR average by entry. Okay, you guys are probably getting bored, but here's the thing. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, those numbers are going down. The numbers that we calculate are mostly going up. And so we got to rethink what we're reporting and what it means. Because, two data sets that should be very similar for the most part. There may be a few weird things here or there, but they should basically tell the same story. They're not. And so that's what my grad student, he's working on his thesis, and then he and I are going to work on a few extra papers because we have a lot of extra data here that we've been analyzing. So I'm sorry, everybody. Something I'm excited about. All right, let's get back to the show. You guys want to ask about that? I could talk about that for hours. I love it. So this week, we're starting to get into actually reading and looking at the OSHA standards. So we're done with the textbook for the class, and I want you to get in and really start reading, because although I don't practice from an OSHA compliance perspective anymore, it's where I started. So when I have to look something up, and I'm still looking things up actually, maybe next week I'll actually provide a few things I'm working on right now, in which I've been digging into the bowels of the OSHA website to look up letters of interpretation, and other sort of insight, so that I can maybe implement a more practical solution than just a standard traditional guard on something, because the worker can't get it done that way. So started with bloodborne pathogens, and I know the lecture kind of got into some of the COVID stuff, but I still think it's interesting that, some of the things I was talking about and predicting, it seemed to come to fruition. Not all of them, but for the most part, I was really locking into data, and that was more or less to deal with the stress of the pandemic than anything, if you couldn't tell. But bloodborne, I think that understanding universal precautions is the key. That's really what the program should be built on. You do that, you should be all right. Next is ergonomics. So musculoskeletal disorders, still an issue. It's an issue at the plant I'm working at. And I'm just trying to give you some ideas. This is one where you really have to get creative and collaborate with the worker, their supervisor, and come up with ideas and solutions you can try out to try to mitigate, forces and repetitions and awkward postures, and educate workers on how to stretch and, loosen themselves up. 13 is subpart D, which is walking working surfaces. I also put in ladders and lifts. people are working at height, and there is no shortage of fall videos on YouTube and other social media. And so knowing how to select and use the proper lift is important. If you need to go up in the air and use both hands to do something, a ladder is not the proper device. You need to have some sort of platform. So you get a JLG, a man lift, or a scissor lift, maybe an electric scaffold that goes up and down. There's a mobile scaffold. There are a lot of different things you can use, and you need to choose the right equipment. Now, if you don't have the right equipment, it doesn't mean you just go ahead and do it, though that's what tends to happen in the world. That's why we have so many falls. As far as slips go, it's the condition of the floor and people not being able to actually watch the path in which they're traveling because they're doing something else. So we have to try and do the best we can to keep pathways clear, have good traction, make sure their shoes are correct. And if there are things that can interrupt or exist that cause things to be slippery or to protrude, so that the gait is someone's gait, which is their walk or step, is banged or tripped, they would go down. Next is powered industrial trucks. We've got those in the plant too. There's certain daily things you have to do, like inspections, and then if somebody reports something, I request that it gets repaired. And today I saw the van out there repairing them, so it works. The system works. Make sure the workers have plenty of training. Observe them while they're performing. Make sure they're doing all the things properly. They're not going too fast. They're honking when they're coming around maybe blind corners. That they're making sure they always have vision of where they're going. That they're stabilizing their loads. All that kind of stuff. And let them know when they're doing a good job too. We had to let a person go because they just would not follow the basic safety rules. I felt bad, but at any time they could have injured themselves or a worker. Crane safety and proper rigging. Now that's getting into construction a bit, but there are different types of mechanical lifts that are used within a work environment, and I think that's important to realize. Even though you're not doing a full pre-lift schedule and you have to have your professional engineering certificate or license and things like that, that just watching, the stability of loads, the proper use of equipment. When I'm walking around, I will regularly put down my notebook and other stuff and assist another person with properly I'm saying inserted because we have spike lifts, but properly set the load on the lift, help them guide it so that they line it up properly so they're not overexerting themselves. Or that the thing would accidentally, roll off of something and then they try to catch it and then they get injured. So there's a lot of ways in which, whether it's crane safety and proper rigging or just any sort of proper lift procedures and thinking about what you're doing it right, that's all important. Do that regularly. Somebody will say, "Oh, I couldn't get it to, line up properly." And I would go down, look under, and there's stuff caught in the wheels. And I pull it out. Now try it. Oh, it works great. Thanks. Come on, you guys. There's the right way to do things. So the accident investigation case studies due this week. If you'll recall, I've got 3 different types of case studies, 1, 2, and 3. I want you to evaluate these in 4 different steps. The first one being, is it actually OSHA recordable? And demonstrate it to me. So yes or no, maybe, and why. Then the second is to recommend one of the investigation techniques that were covered in the Oakley textbook. And why? Why is the right one used? Last week you guys were doing a good job of reviewing those and giving the pros and cons. I was setting you up for this week. Criterion 3, try and actually see if you can figure out what the root causes are without blaming the worker using these techniques, and then make a recommendation how it could be corrected. I do want you to try and find something that's at the top of the hazard control hierarchy, but so don't default to, well, I'm going to train them and use PPE. Try to think of what you could do if it wasn't their fault. If they were just trying to get their job done and they happen to not detect or be able to avoid what caused them to be injured. I would like to reinvite you all to join me for one of the discussions. So far, I've had one person show up to both Sundays. We have great discussions. I wish you guys could make it. He works and I work, and we're both comparing notes and sharing things, and I'm challenging him. He's challenging me. I really appreciate him doing that, and I wish more of you could engage like that. You can learn a lot from just asking certain questions or letting me kind of share stories of what I've been working on. They're all posted on the Canvas page. If you can't find them, let me know, and I can send them directly to you. Okay, but and if you go there, you participate, you're assured to get 10 out of 10. Okay, for discussion. Still looking for some of you to join me on LinkedIn, but that's okay. I'm on here. I'm playing around. It's a good thing if you're going into the field. It's good to make connections and see what's available out there. So, having said all that, I'm sorry this went as long as it did, but I appreciate you sticking with me to the end. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll try to share more experiences and some of the projects I'm working on. So, have a great week.